Welcome in to the week 3 version of the Betting the Pitch NFL podcast, presented by Betting the Pitch, presented by at the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. That's me. I'm joined by at a underscore Schnicker. We're both playing road games right now, like a
Yeah,
lot of the NFL this week. Where are you coming from, and how are you doing tonight?
I'm in Atlanta. I'm working on about 3 hours of sleep,
Okay.
and this is gonna get me. This is gonna get me all the way through the night, right here.
Hell yeah. Well,
Is that
glad to have you. Also very glad to announce our 2-0 from last week, which was a first one of the season. It only took us 2 weeks, so everyone can stop the clock now. Looking forward to extending that to 4-0 with two winners coming up on this episode. We're going to go through the 4 primetime games. Yes, 4 of them. One Thursday night, one Sunday night, and 2 Mondays. Then we're going to do to complete our 6-pack because we used to be beer drinking boys. Once upon a time, at a underscore Snicker poured a full beer on my crotch to try to wake me
that's
up.
not true. That is a lie. That's
True.
not true.
Okay,
That's
only half a
that's a
beer.
lie.
Regardless, we will do those 4 primetime games. Then we will, I guess, do a little draft, snake draft. But since I'm a gentleman, a underscore Snicker will pick first. And then we will come out with best bets end of show, and hopefully we will, I guess, make some more history as we head towards 4-0 in our last 2 podcasts. So at a underscore Snicker, you had a winner on the under in Cleveland at Jacksonville, an upset win from the Browns. I gave out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and also an upset winner. This time, though, against the spread on the road at Detroit. Let's get in that first game. One of the most beautiful matchups of all NFL could ever offer to us. The New York Jets, a 6-point favorite at home, New England Patriots. Total is 38.5 on this one. What do you think?
Jets are getting to come back home after two straight games on the road with a loss at the 49ers and then a win last week against Tennessee. I was actually fairly impressed with their performance against Tennessee. I think that the Titans, well, okay, Will Levis is an adventure in himself. Like that's a different adventure, but I think the Titans defense, that defensive line is really strong, and it helped to get Arden Key out. He was supposed to be suspended, and then he got that appealed. So their defensive line is pretty salty, and I thought that the Jets did enough. The offensive line to me is improving. I think if you look at the stats, they're about middle of the pack in terms of efficiency, but Aaron Rodgers is looking good. I like what Breece Hall and what Braylon Allen can do as a 1-2 punch. But I think the Patriots are kind of the darlings right now, wouldn't you say? They
Uh,
play the Seahawks tight and they get a win against the Bengals in week one.
Yeah, went to overtime with Seattle. 2-0 gets a spread if you got a 3.5 on week 2. Of
Yeah,
course, up to kill most everyone's survivor pools until Monday Night Football and Saquon Barkley killed mine, plus a lot of
you and
others.
me both.
Thank you. Thank you, Saquon. The check is in the mail. Actually, the bill is in the mail.
Yep.
I also lost 2 fantasy matchups, but maybe a Philadelphia -5.5. Just a really, really great day. Thank you, Saquon. I think from the Pat side, yes, they might be the darlings, but they still were, I think, had a 4.5 win projection or
Yeah.
regular season win total. So we might want to pump the brakes on that one. I know that I personally bet the Jets, I think, as a 3-point underdog in the same situation last year, only to see Mac Jones beat Zach, whatever the heck his name is.
Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Thank you. Yes, not Garrett Wilson, Zach Wilson. Very happy he's not starting this game, though I do have the Jets regular season win total under 9.5 at this point. The so-so start. Probably wish that they had lost on the road at Tennessee last weekend, but it is what it is. I do think Aaron Rodgers is going to make that offensive line look better because you can't just load the box and you have to, I don't know, at least expect a 40-year-old quarterback can throw better than a 24-year-old one or however old Zach might be. But I think my biggest interest in this one is under 38.5. Not sexy, certainly on a Thursday night, but would expect this number to climb. It's been falling pretty heavily, though, so that kind of goes against that intuition. Just most of the time, I feel like standalone games, I think a lot of times get over money. If you had to make a pick on this one, where are you going?
I think the under is usually a pretty solid bet on a Thursday night. I do think what you're saying with that total, the days before, I think it usually when you have more professional groups betting, they're usually going to take an under on a Thursday night. But yes, once we get closer to that primetime game, that kickoff, you're probably going to see people going back over the top. Um, to me, like the Patriots, everyone had questions about Gerard Mayo and what his coaching capabilities, and it's been 2 games. I get it, but I've been fairly impressed with their game plans and their offensive strategy. Um, but I think the Jets, their defense, which was supposed to be the calling card, has not been my I have not been impressed with it overall. And I think that they're missing Hassan Reddick, really needing to get him back. Also with another injury on the defensive front. I'll go. I would take the under with you. I wouldn't really want to go on a side, but I would lean Jets, I guess, if I had to.
Yeah, I think I'd lean Jets. Also, I think it's just one of those. We'll see if the Patriots can keep up because the Jets
Yeah.
defense hasn't been that great so far, but it was so dominant last year. High standards, high expectations, certainly. And those New England Patriots certainly could help with that, as I don't see a lot from that offense coming through. Move to Sunday night, and then we'll go back into the regular Sunday card with our I guess our own selections, which games we want to talk about. We'll do the Chiefs a 3.5 point favorite in Atlanta. You got there pretty early to go to a Sunday night football game, arriving at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. But that's what we do here at the Betting Pitch NFL edition. We get there, we scope it out, and we stay there through the thick and the thin. So like I said, Chiefs 3.5 point favorite at Atlanta, totals 46.5.
Yeah, I got boots on the ground. I'm getting all my sources and had to beat the rush here. So
Take
I
that, Schefter.
appreciate you tipping my hand to
Yes,
some of our schemes.
right.
Um, okay, so I want these podcasts to be forward looking. Obviously, we have to go back a little bit to look back. We can agree that Kirk Cousins, you got to get some pressure on him when he can't move, right? We can all agree that the Falcons being able to move the ball 80 yards in 30 seconds with just the Eagles bringing four and a secondary that looked really lost. Not the strategy that you want to do. I think the Falcons should be 0-2.
I agree.
I the Chiefs, like, I love their defensive front. But the back seven, or whatever we want to call it, linebackers, secondary, I giving up a lot of yards to tight ends. Maybe this is Kyle Pitts. Maybe this is his chance to actually
I
do
mean,
something for
it's been
once.
4 years. Is now the
This
day?
is the time we've been waiting for. Um, so other than, like, we've talked about the Chiefs a lot. The offense looks light years more explosive than it did last year. Travis Kelce is not really a factor right now because he's got Mahomes has so many different options to go to. Um, I think Steve Spagnuolo, which is one of my favorite defensive coordinators, he's not going to he can get natural pressure with four that the Eagles could not get. And he's not going to let Cousins sit back there and be able to throw the ball. I mean, I was shocked at even him being able to throw the ball 30 yards down the field on Monday. I don't think, I know the clock was ticking. He was getting 4 or 5 seconds to pass. That's just inexcusable.
Yeah,
Sorry, but to me, I don't see I don't see the Chiefs allowing that to happen this week. Although the Falcons' offensive line has been very good.
maybe the Chiefs take a field goal on 4th and 4 in the first possession to set the tone. It was interesting to hear Joe Buck say that the book favored go, though a slight go, I think is what he said. But I guess that could have been useful when you lose by a point at the end of a game. But
Oh,
whatever.
yeah,
Talking about Monday Night Football, I think from a Chiefs perspective, though, I mean they kind of stole that game against Cincinnati. Bengals,
yeah.
after looking as bad as they did against the Patriots in the opener, still made the Chiefs look like a pretty banged up team, and at least a lot of options that you talked about. But now they're starting white running back. I'm not sure I've seen that since Tim Dwight, but I got to say Peyton Hillis probably
Yeah,
between them.
Peyton Hillis. Right. You cannot forget about Peyton
Well,
Hillis.
I have a soft spot for
Legend.
I have a soft spot for Tim Dwight when in college Northwestern punted on 3rd down so that they couldn't punt to him on 4th. But it's just one of those things where I feel like the Falcons are not good. Yes, I'm certainly reacting to getting knocked out of my Survivor contests multiple, but like at the same time, I'm used to that at this point in NFL world.
Me too.
Just glad I made it past the first week, I guess. Ha ha, all you haters that lost week 1 with the Bengals. But I feel like the Chiefs are a better team. Good luck knowing when they're going to turn things on because sometimes it takes them a while. It took till the playoffs, it seemed last year. Still have a really puzzling loss to the Raiders on that record, but I just don't think the Falcons are great. Home field advantage certainly might be better on Sunday night. Atlanta does care about their sports teams. The Braves have been kind of struggling lately and might miss the playoffs. So this might be what Falcons or Atlanta fans have. I just don't really like. I don't know what it would take for me to back Atlanta here. I just don't think I'm doing it, even getting more than a field goal at home. We'll move to Monday, 2 games back to back, or at least 45 minutes in between. Then we'll come back to 2 games on the Sunday card. We'll start with Jacksonville at Buffalo. Jacksonville, 5-point underdog on the road. Total is 45.5 in Orchard Park.
Okay. This is pretty simple. Jacksonville's offensive line is a mess. I know that we cashed that bet with the under 41 with the Browns and Jags, and part of that handicap is what I'm seeing in the offensive scheme with the Jags is just, it feels kind of, I can't take all the credit. This was a lot of podcasts and research talking about schemes. There's a big concern out there that Doug Peterson has kind of, he's fallen behind in terms of offensive ingenuity. And I think it's a valid criticism at this point. I the offensive line is not doing Trevor Lawrence any favors, but I'm just not seeing much of a spark there, especially from a team that was fairly, like, they were a playoff team until Lawrence got hurt late last year. Meanwhile, both of these teams to me were sell teams coming into the year. We talked, you and I both talked about that Buffalo Miami game for probably hours trying to figure out what we liked there. And I think the common thought was that, oh, Buffalo dominates Miami every time. And so we stayed away, but I don't think it takes away our feelings towards Buffalo, and just the depleted ranks of the defense and an offense that doesn't really have an identity other than James Cook. And he was a pretty good identity on Thursday night.
He
What
certainly
do you think?
was. The Bills, though, kind of ran into a depleted offensive line in Miami, division
Yeah.
rival, which you could argue maybe they're more familiar with than a Jacksonville team, but kind of sounds like the same thing, except this one's in Orchard Park where they murder teams. I don't really see any sort of contest between Josh Allen and his island of misfit toys against I guess the hair commercial guy that's still out there who has better pieces, but really hasn't performed since the second half of 2 or 3 fantasy seasons ago. I just don't really see it in Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Doug Peterson was great at going for it on fourth down, way before the rest of the league started to do that. It seemed like that's his one trick, and he's a pony.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know what number it would take for me to back Jacksonville here. I feel like any number, honestly, like, yes, it's climbed from, since I've been tracking it, from 4 to 5, it looks like, but that doesn't scare me. I think the Bills, one of the best teams at blowing teams out at home. I feel like this is probably going to be one of those money line tickets for a lot of people trying to avoid paying bookies on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with that. I feel like, I mean, who knows with late game officiating, field goal kicking and such, but I think there's a good chance this is a blowout and that the Jaguars are not even in this game late to potentially screw everyone who's involved in Survivor and other things like that. Moving to the last Monday Night Football game, which is weird to say, the Washington Commanders, Washington football team, visit Cincinnati, who we've spoken of a bunch in this podcast already. But finally, we get to the Bengals, a 7.5-point favorite at home, totals 47 in this one.
Yeah, Washington. I would like to hear to
I'll start.
Washington. Yeah, I want you
Set
to
me
start.
up. What do you want? What do you want me to riff on
I
first?
want you to, I want to get your thoughts on where Washington is. Let's compare where they were at last year to the Dan Quinn beginning
Well,
of
I have
the
survived
Washington football
1 week
team.
of backing
What
the
do you think?
Washington professional football team, and I laid the 1 point, which was very small, and was honestly a very surprising. Somehow, no touchdowns, offensively, defensively, special teams, anything, and still was able to cover the spread. Thank you for 7 field goals, Austin Seibert, which I think he went to OU, which rarely do I thank people like that. But that was wild. And the Giants as
Yeah.
a 1-point underdog, getting a lot of respect from the marketplace. I thought outplayed Washington in a lot of ways, but a really bad fumble from their Saquon Barkley replacement. I guess they should have thrown a pass and then had it hit the ground instead of fumbling with Devin
Singletary.
Singletary. But Yeah, Singletary fumbled, and then the kicker got hurt, Graham Gano for the Giants, so they were forced to go for a 4th and 6 late, and I was still trying to figure out what the heck happened, and then I remembered that the kicker was out, going for all these 2-point
Yeah.
conversions, and failing multiple times. I mean, that's one of the more fortunate wins I felt like. I think Jaden Daniels, like he's got a lot of stuff, but man, he is not able to throw accurately. Like the amount of amazing catches that were made just to make them catches instead of like wide open run and catches, they were all just catches because the guys have to fall over to catch it. And then we're tagged when they hit the ground. I don't really see. I mean, it's weird with Cincinnati at this point. Joe Burrow certainly does not look healthy just yet. That fumble return for a touchdown was a huge killer for the Bengals, but they're 0-2 right now, which is really, really bad indicator, at least in 16 game seasons for making the playoffs. Fortunately, the sample sizes are small and it's a long season. I think the Bengals will right the ship, and I think this is the first step in them doing that. So 7.5 feels like a lot over a touchdown in the NFL, but usually you just pick the team that's going to win and they cover the spread. So I'm interested in the home team. I don't know how to feel about a total really. I think it's more just Cincinnati.
Yeah, to me, we've watched Cincinnati. I think 5 of the last 6 years they've lost their opener. And I think we could go back. Most of those years have started 0-2. Um, so there's something here with slow starts in Cincinnati. Jamar Chase, that contract situation, the what T Higgins, that situation, he's injured.
I just want
Um,
him to play once for my fantasy team, just once, because we didn't last year at all, basically. Yeah.
Meanwhile, like I think that Washington will be an improved team by the end of the year, and so I want us to remember this right now. But the offense is not getting its best players involved. Terry McLaurin is like nowhere to be found. It feels very much like Jaden Daniels is running around there like he did at LSU. Kind of backyard ball type. Uh, because there's no way he's confident in that playbook, and that's we could look at Caleb Williams, we could look at any rookie quarterback and be like, okay, you're not going to be totally ready to go at this point in the game. And so this does feel like a Cincinnati spot where you may be getting a little bit of a discount on them just because of the 0-2 start. But yes, I think Washington set a record with the Giants somehow scoring a touchdown and scoring multiple touchdowns and only allowing field goals and still losing. I think I heard that was potentially has only happened once or twice ever in the history of the NFL. So it's been wild.
Usually I'm on the other side of that, so I'm very happy that that occurred. Cincinnati's last victory was 2021 at home. Do you want to know who they opened and first week victory the last time they did that? Do you know who it was against?
2021.
Yes, it's going to be hard.
Oh, no, I don't know.
The Minnesota Vikings. But we'll move
Yeah,
on to your
wouldn't have
selection.
got that.
Yeah, that's gonna be really hard to get. So you get to pick which game you want to talk on the Sunday slate because we've already done
Oh,
all of the primetime games and we still have what feels like a lot of time left, though I'm sure that's
do
going to
we?
go very, very quick. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. Man, there's a couple good games. Here's the thing is like I sometimes try to wait, what is Griffin gonna pick? Because I don't want to pick. I want to make sure we talk about the games that I want to pick.
Pick the game you're going to pick, and then I will figure out because I've got 15 on the list.
Okay. Let's go. Well, you know what? Let's talk about the Cowboys. I don't think we haven't really talked about the Cowboys.
That's what happens when they don't play any primetime games anymore. Jerry Jones is probably freaking out about not being shown on TV enough for a national audience. So Cowboys 1 point underdog at home to the Baltimore Ravens in America's game of the week window. I can't imagine there's gonna be any other games. So Detroit at Arizona, San
Tom
Francisco,
Brady gonna be doing
Buccaneers,
this
Rams.
one, the third straight Cowboys game.
I mean, hopefully, maybe this one will be close and we can really see how bad he is. Total is 48.5. Cowboys a 1 point underdog at home to the Ravens.
Okay. I'm getting pretty close to having to walk back my Baltimore sentiments from the off season.
Another 0-2.
What happened Sunday? That can't happen. Like
I feel
the
like it happens a
defensive
lot for the
drop,
Ravens. It happens a lot.
the defensive drop from what we saw at the end of last year to what we're seeing right now, it's stark. It is such a wide gap. Um, they did lose a lot of their coaching staff. I get it. And they lost several players as well. Lamar Jackson, it feels like they, they had used Isaiah Likely a lot in week one, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, we're good. We're gonna have Mark Andrews back, and they lose to the Raiders. But Zay Flowers feels like
With
the
a
only,
big lead. Let's not forget that they had a huge lead, and usually that's a thing that the Ravens are great at salting away and couldn't do it
yeah.
against
I
Gardner.
guess I yes, they at one point, in that second half they were out, it was a 9.5 spread and they were outside of that number. But to me, I was keeping close tabs on this. Uh, it never to me felt like I was like, man, they've wasted so many chances to actually put this game away. Um, they get that fourth down stop and then they can't really do anything with it. It feels like Lamar Jackson, they don't he doesn't have many weapons to go to. It's basically I'm gonna look for the tight end or I'm going to go to Zay Flowers. And um, the defense is a mess. So I guess we could take that same handicap and move it to the Cowboys and just basically replace the names. You know what I'm saying? Like the defense has some names, but they're not playing up to what they were playing under Dan Quinn last year. Uh, it's Dak Prescott and CD Lamb. Those are the only offensive playmakers that I think are any good. Um,
Which
let's
both
go to coaching on
got
this.
paid. Both of them got paid.
Okay.
And I don't know. I fell asleep when I was drafting my fantasy football draft from France and got stuck with an auto draft of Dak Prescott. I gotta say, I'm not really happy to have Dakota at this point. I think he's put up 2 duds so far. Maybe a weak Baltimore Ravens defense coming into town will be very helpful for that, but I mean, we basically went from the Cowboys, the narratives where they're horrible on the road and great at home, and that's completely flip-flopped with a blowout win at Cleveland, who's been
Yeah.
notoriously good at home, and then getting massacred, giving up more points, 5 touchdowns in 5 possessions, more points than they've ever given up in the first half in franchise history to New Orleans Aints of all offenses. Like, I don't even understand how that happened, but I do think that this Dallas Cowboys defense used to be the scariest thing in the league, and it's not there anymore. But Baltimore is a 1 point favorite on the road here in what will be a packed out stadium with certainly some Ravens fans, but it's tons of Cowboys. I went to a game last year. It's annoying even at the top. Everyone is there cheering "Go Cows, go" type things. But at this point, to me, the valuation, yes, you can argue home field advantage matters nothing in the NFL, but I feel like for the Cowboys, it's a good spot for crowd noise to get their defensive line off the snap using silent counts for the Ravens. Certainly, maybe the mobility of Lamar Jackson could be a problem here for Dallas, but still, the Ravens I feel like are looked at as a much better team because they were favored in the home game in the AFC Championship last year, which they kind of threw away. Maybe they deserved more or something like that, but still, they're favored on the road at a good home team coming off a really embarrassing loss. It's hard for me to look to the road favorite in any part of this life, I got to say. Anyone who listens to the Betting the Pitch podcast or any podcast I've ever recorded in my life probably knows that. But I got to say, we probably see points in this one because the Cowboys are almost as likely to score on defense as they are on offense. So I could see overhitting, and I think I lean to the Cowboys here.
I can see that. I will counter with if I look at the head coaching situation, it's a pretty big mismatch.
But
Um,
do you think that a good head coach doesn't lose his entire staff and replace them with nobodies?
right.
I mean, maybe there's a long-term plan here for John Harbaugh, not Jim. But like, to me, it seems like you're right that they got picked to the bone and a lot of talent and a lot of coaching talent. And I don't know if we blame that on 2 weeks of 2 losses. Of course, an opener against a Super Bowl champion, hard to win that game, but the loss to Las Vegas, excuse me. Sorry to the Oakland fans. I know you're really sad losing another team to Sacramento very soon, but I just don't really know if there's enough here for me to back Baltimore. I think in the picks that you have to make, I'm playing the Cowboys. We'll see if I make that one of my plays, the actual live card on Sunday. For my biggest interest, it's probably as some would call it, a rat line out there at Biggie Spen. How are you? The Green Bay Packers down from 3-point underdogs on the road at Tennessee. Now a 1.5-point underdog at Bet Online. Totals 38.5 in this one. Malik Willis revenge tour starts Sunday, clearly. He was honestly the easiest thing to bet against in history. Literally look, oh, Malik Willis is starting. Let's bet the other team. Now he gets to face the Tennessee Titans who drafted him.
Yeah.
Um, I One thing I think I know is that he's not going to make the mistakes that Will Levis, the heir apparent to him. I mean, the throw still, I'm still confused about what he did against the Bears and cost them an entire football game there. They were competitive against the Jets, as you said, but ultimately, like, didn't look like they were ever going to score in that last drive. It felt like to me. But I got to say, the Packers looked very good in their bounce back. I thought they looked better than the Eagles in Brazil. Weird to then go from Brazil to Indianapolis, or I guess to play Indianapolis, but that worked out fairly well for the Packers. 1-1, I'm sure they would have taken coming into the season, though they certainly would like to have Jordan Love as their quarterback. Why is Tennessee a favorite here?
People are still going to push away from the Malik. Do you know how many times they ran the ball against the Colts?
I think 53, something like that.
53 times.
It's a
And
lot.
yet the Colts didn't pick up in that time. Hey, maybe,
I mean, Colts
maybe
coaching,
we should
we
bring some
know
other
is the
guys out.
problem. Yes, yes, yes.
Uh, Listen, I mean, in the picks that didn't matter last week, I had the Packers but it was mostly just anytime I can say absolutely can bet against the Colts, I'm going to.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, this your buddy, what's Big East Ben? Is that his name?
East Ben, yes, that actually is his legal name. He's changed it. His wife is now Mrs. Big East Ben.
This is Big East.
Mrs. at Big East Ben,
She
actually.
just calls him Biggie. He
Uh,
kept
yeah, I
comes
mean they do look alike. I think he's Slovakian heritage,
nice.
but you know.
I Yes, the line stinks, but I think it's warranted. I think the right team is favored. If I were to look at the sum of the parts, Jordan Love's not playing. I know he's coming back to practice. Some of the parts here from these two games, and who is available for the Packers and what they've actually put on tape versus what the Titans have put on tape, except for Will Levis, literally his brain melting in every game. I mean,
You think
yeah,
it's
that could
gonna
certainly happen.
stay whole and all of
It
a
could
sudden
certainly
the ice
happen.
cube's gonna like pretend it's
You know what was so
cold
great
out?
was that the coach, Callahan was like, he's an adult. He knows he did something wrong. When they kept asking him what he did, like, what did you say to him? He's like, yeah, he feels bad about it because he's an adult and he did it wrong.
Did
I'm
you
not
tell him that he had to go to timeout and couldn't have any chocolate this week?
like that feels like like what he knows he did something bad, man. I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but like it's pretty perfect. The question though is like, do I really want to take the ride of backing Will Levis? I've already done it once this year and it didn't go well.
Well, I had some experience, as you know. I was basically the Tighten Up guy on the first inaugural
I know.
season of the Betting the Pitch NFL edition podcast. And it went really well, though Mike Vrabel was there. And honestly, I still am shuddering from being at a Hooters near my place that has caught on fire recently, unfortunately, killing my Sunday afternoons.
Your Mountain Dew and Hooters.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. I was like, there's a deal here. I might as well. I haven't had a Mountain Dew in forever. And then literally I'm just like running into the walls as if I had pads on Sunday. But I do remember not being able to get a punt off the Titans against the Colts at home as a home underdog and then losing in overtime. But I mean, the Titans always under Vrabel seemed very close to me. Every game they played was close, and they made the playoffs. And they went deep in the playoffs. They ended the Patriots dynasty until 2024, of course, and the Jacoby Brissett era. But I gotta say, we've done very well on time on this podcast. I'm like incredibly amazed that we just got to 10 minutes left. So we've
Wait,
got,
really?
I don't know if like this didn't work or something like that, but we'll see because it says recording. I mean, we're not live streaming, so we can't like look at the comments, but comment
Yeah.
if you can hear this. So
Do you want to do one more? Should
I
we do
mean,
one more?
we might as well.
The bonus.
Let's do a bonus, a 6-pack plus one. We're getting super drunk on this Wednesday night edition, which we keep meaning to record on Tuesdays, but
It just doesn't
scheduling
happen.
happens. So
Yeah.
we're still getting you out there before Thursday night football. Okay, give me one more you want to talk about because we got
Okay.
plenty of time.
Let's let's do Texans at Vikings.
Okay, so I'll
That's
read
2
the
and 0
line.
teams against 2 and 0 team.
Texan 2-point favorite, a little bit more juice on the Texans side at the moment. Total is 46. So Texans looked really average on Sunday night, but they won.
They did. And what's funny is that D'Amico Ryan's actually blitzed. He never blitzes. He sure blitzed. 36 of 37 dropbacks for Caleb Williams. He was facing pressure. Maybe they should work that in a little bit more, but I do know I respect D'Amico
How does
Ryan's
that
ability.
work against Sammy D, baby? Because I know I was in the. Were we both in the crowd in LA? Did you come to LA to watch us lose in overtime the Texas Longhorns to Sam Darnold?
I mean, I was on the field, buddy.
Yes, you weren't drinking with me and Case McCoy, but
No, I was working.
yeah.
Um,
Well, maybe you were drinking. Who knows? But I'll leave that. You don't have to answer that.
I was,
All right, Texas
um,
2-point favorite. They're gonna blitz the heck out of Sam Darnold and
you
see if
think so? I know I don't that's not normally D'Amico. That's not normally the Texans' MO. That's not they normally don't blitz as much as they did Sunday night. I think they probably should. Maybe they should mix it in a little bit more. Um
because
this
blitzing Sam
this
Darnold seems like it'd make a lot more sense because he's not running anywhere. Blitzing
no,
Caleb
he's not.
Williams seems like a shock factor,
I
and
mean,
maybe that's part of the game plan. Is they're like, oh, they're of course they're not going to blitz Caleb Williams because he's going to get out of the pocket and be mobile and not just throw the ball up for grabs and get all these interceptions wiped away by turnovers or flags.
people are going to look when they break this game down this week. They're going to look to the quarterbacks. Obviously, Sam Darnold's been outstanding. I will say the 49ers basically doubled them up in yardage and still lost. So that might be something to file away. But I think to me, this game is about two defenses that are really, really clicking at a high level. D'Amico Ryans and why am I forgetting the Dolphin? Brian Flores,
Brian
now the
Flores,
defensive
yeah,
coordinator
big,
for the
great
Vikings.
against the Giants.
Um,
Week one.
like Flores has created this like really nice little show where it's like simulated pressure and not actual blitzing, but um they look very good. And I think the Texans look very good. So to me, I'm not sold on either of these offenses, even though, fantasy and they're kind of the start of the season when we were talking about the Texans, and this week, the darlings are the Vikings. Um,
I mean,
man, what's
hold
this
on a second.
total?
Vikings have
We're like,
never been the darlings. I mean,
this is totally organic.
The Texans added Joe Mixon. They
I think
also
the Vikings are the darlings now, though.
based on beating a San Francisco team that's missing the number one pick, and Debo got hurt. I mean, good win for sure. Got a
Yeah,
97
well,
touchdown
no, I
pass.
mean, yeah, but like,
I don't know. I don't. I
I
don't.
think
I don't know if I
I
don't know if
think people have been impressed with what Minnesota has done. Did I freeze?
I think we're all freezing, but at this point, I guess we're just a Will Levis ice cube at this point. Eventually, we'll melt and things will go haywire.
We
But
went crazy.
I mean,
We
to
tried
me,
to stretch it with one more
Texans are
game.
favored here. So Minnesota's been great at home. Again, home field advantage matters not to a lot of people, though I do think it does mean at least a couple points in 2024. The 49ers were favored at Minnesota. That went horribly wrong for anyone backing them. Texans are a different team, maybe more dynamic through the passing game, but I feel like San Francisco is always an offense we could trust because they can run the ball against everyone. Brian Flores looked great. Honestly, I thought won that game against the Giants week one. Despite like a pretty rough start despite Sam Darnold completing all his passes, first 12, I think it was, aided by a ridiculous pass interference call. But do you agree that the Texans deserve to be 2-point favorites here?
I do. I do agree that they deserve to be 2-point favorites. Because I mean that I feel like I've moved them up in my power ratings even after a shaky performance. That game, there was that fumble at the goal line on Sunday night. Like, I think even that final drive, no, Caleb Williams didn't even think he had a chance to win that game. And they had the ball to end it. Like, I was like, no, there's no way. That ain't happening. So as dominant of a 6-point win as you can have, I might have froze when we were talking when I wanted to. I would look under in this game. I think like that is a pretty contrarian point of view, but I think these defensive coaches have been the better units for both of these teams so far. And I think most people are gravitating to the offenses for both of these.
I feel like NFL betting is really, you got to be on the sharp side because while you can win these short home favorites, and it feels like it might work out, or I'll pay to see it not work out.
Yeah,
I do think unders are what you want to look towards, especially 46 is kind of a big total in the NFL in this year.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I got sucked into the Lions and the Bucks over last weekend. I don't even know if it might have taken 8 quarters to get to 52 points. So
Well,
I feel
yeah, with
like
the way the
anything
Lions
above,
aren't converting in the red zone. Yeah,
I mean, a million field goals certainly played into that. But seems to me like what used to be a standard total of 44 in the NFL now is 40. And even then, I feel like those numbers seem pretty high with the amount of, I think defenses are more conservative and I think are just better than the offenses. And this is an interesting matchup because Texans certainly are talked about a lot in fantasy circles. I feel like there's a huge Venn diagram overlap from whoever is betting the NFL that has Texans on their fantasy teams or have wanted to have them, and certainly look to that side of the ball more than the defensive side. I think you're ultimately buying low on the Vikings here as a home underdog. I don't know necessarily if I would have made, like I made Houston a 1.5 point favorite, so pretty much the same as this number. I've seen as low as 1, as high as 2.5. Do you think
yeah.
it gets to 3 before we get to best bets?
No, I don't think it's getting a three.
Yeah,
I
I think there's enough Vikings money out there that there's no chance. But
if it,
if
yeah,
it's
if
there
we
and you
even
see
get
it, you grab it +3.
yes, but I don't even know we would have to be glued to our two odd screens for the rest of the week to even have a chance because I think
Well,
it would be gone just like that.
I look forward to it. So let's get to best bets. I left my phone in the other room, so I will record this separately to put on
Okay.
our social media platforms at the real underscore G Warner. Maybe we've saved some time because I haven't done as much plugging of my various social media platforms. But at the real underscore G Warner, Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube at A underscore Schnicker on Twitter. We're trying to figure out the Instagram portion, but good luck herding cats there. At Andrew Schnicker, go ahead and give us your best bet for this week 3.
Okay. This is I think this team has taken over the banner as the new Tennessee Titans. They've become my my favorites just 2 weeks into this young season. I'm gonna go with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a
Pittsburgh.
short 1 point favorite,
Okay, keep going.
hosting the Chargers. They've scored 31 points total this year. 13 they've won, they're 2-0. They've won by scoring 13, they've won by scoring 18 points. That's I think one touchdown this season. And you know what? I this game would also be a fun under. This is another like Burnley slobber knocker type EPL match that we're gonna watch.
Hmm.
Um, but you know what? The Steelers have the best defense in the league right now.
So grab the Pittsburgh Steelers for at A underscore Schnicker. Pittsburgh Steelers -1. It's a little juice at the moment, but I think there is value in grabbing -1 so you don't lose to a God forbid one
Yeah.
point victory and you have -1.5. For my best bet, and we're coming off a 2-0, so we're going to try to keep that going. Of course, I will make the social media platform stuff later when I actually have a cell phone in front of me. Happens when we're doing road games, I guess. But for my best bet on this episode, I'm going to go with the game we just talked about. I don't trust Will Levis. He's an ice cube. He's going to melt. So I'll go Green Bay Packers +1.5. It seems really weird. I'll like I just said, sharp sides. Just who needs them? I will pay to see the ice cube stay fully intact in a hot Nashville summer day. Give me the Packers +1.5. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Please follow, subscribe on all the platforms out there, betting the pitch at the real underscore G Warner on YouTube and on Instagram. And we'll see you next week, hopefully Tuesday night. We'll see what the schedule looks like.